Hello, everyone. It's Monday. Yes, it's going to be a cracker tonight. I know I always say that, but this is going to be a cracker. I've got a little murder for you. Not only a little murder, but I've also got about a gang that went around Liverpool, terrorising people, terrorising them. Got about that as well. And also I've got this. I'm going to show you it now. Going to show. And it's a great big map. And that map that will come right on the screen to you. It'll be zoomed in. I'll be showing you little places and everything else. And the history behind it. It's going to be good, honestly. Stay with me. Stay with me and Anthony. Because Anthony will be made up as well with this. He really will. This is honest. I'm made up with this. And this is Jason as well. Jason said, hey, Frank, how about doing this? You know, and I went, brilliant. So it's all his way. It really is all his way. That's achievable. Anyway, so that's that for in the next 10 minutes or so. Be made up with that. Then I'll give a little murder most foul. Murder most foul. Horrible fella. This fella. Horrible. I'll tell you all about him in a moment or two. Christics, greetings, Frank and Anthony. Hope to catch the show. Best History channel on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you. And then Frankie, overall as well, mate. Says Tony LFC. You know, the little points and the Scotch, and there's 2 Scotches for Anthony. Evening, Anthony. I'll be bringing Anthony. I'll bring him on now, because, you know, he likes to say hello to people. Sorry there, Anthony.
Good evening, Frank. I'm just enjoying the Scotches there that Tony sent you again. I tell you what, back into that weather cycle, aren't we? I'd much rather have a Scotch and a cup of tea than go out there.
And there's the fire on, I see. Yeah. The fire's on. I got up this morning, genuine. I do get up, you know. Anyway, I got up.
You don't sleep?
I've had the lights on all day. The lights been on all day.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. The Sideline Football Show. It's great. They got Frank in the chat. Look, and he says, I'll try and tune in currently at work. It's great, isn't it? You know, when they're at work, to tune in. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Gary Rigby. Evening, everyone.
Evening, Gary.
And Tony's letting on to everyone. Look, evening, Gary. An evening sideline. Sideline Football Show. It's amazing, just amazing. But anyway, you know, we've got a cracking show tonight, Anthony, because it's full of history. It really is. It really is. Look at this fella's name. Love this fella's name as well. Cedric Lopez. Big up to the only guy with a name better than me, Anthony. Isn't that fantastic? Better name than me, Anthony. Love it. I really love it. And this is what our lads are about. You know, they enjoy things. They enjoy the football. And a lot of them enjoy A lot of them enjoy their history as well. They really do. But this one, this is the only thing about this particular. I'm going to get a message. Hang on, sorry about this. See, you know, like, I don't know why. I just had a message there and it said, why isn't it going on Facebook? I don't know why. I don't know why it's not going on Facebook. I really don't. And I don't even know if Jay knows as well. Jason. I don't know whether he knows. But it's only going out on YouTube. Unfortunately, I think X as well. I'm not quite so sure, but not on Facebook for some reason. It used to always go out on there.
That's right.
Always. So I just don't know.
I know Jason's been working hard to bring back a life with Facebook, hasn't he? Because
Yeah.
Facebook has been playing soft buggers for a while for many people, but
Jason sent me a message as usual. I'm very still. And Jason just says, he said, I don't know. You know, he doesn't know why. I've tried reconnecting and I've shared the YouTube stream to Facebook. And that's where we lose our Facebook friends, unfortunately. I don't know. I think it's just mad, to be honest. It's comical. And Tony LFC says, does that apply to me as well, Cedric? You know about the name? I mean, evening, Frank and Anthony. Hope you're both well. Yes, Ian. Yes. I'm just going to give it a few minutes simply because I want to start this when I know that everybody's here because this murder trial.
Now, I've got you on Facebook.
Oh, has it come on then? Yeah, because as Jason said.
But
as Jason said.
Obviously, under the new name, which is Scouse Francis, rather than the Frank Carlyle Show.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's in the Facebook feed, and it's under Scouse Francis, and subtitled The Frank Carlyle Show, with guest Cedric Anthony.
Cedric Anthony.
Cedric alive and happy. So under everyone plays under the name Scouse Francis.
Okay, well, as long as we're on one way form and another, I don't know. And I just want to, I'm going to show this picture. And it's a picture of Lime Street. And I'll be emphasising more about this later on. And you'll see what I mean when I do it. So remember this, I'll put it up before I'm going to start going on about it. Because it's going to be good, this. It really is. And also, I'll be doing this later on in the second half of the show.
Wow.
And it's, I'm just going to read this. And this was taken in the Daily Post editorial of 1886. The highest type of civilization and the lowest type of savagery are to be found in Liverpool, existing side by side, and in no city in the world can a more startling contrast of the two races of mankind, the civilized and the uncivilized, be found. That's what I'll be talking about in the second half of the show.
Yeah.
That's what I'll be talking about. But there's great history as well behind as we move on. There really is. It's incredible what history it is. So I'll be doing that later on. I'll be doing that later on in the second half of the show after the little break that we have.
Fantastic.
And me, I'm going to get a drink of water. I'm really parched. Do you mind? I won't be a moment. Just say hello to everyone. I'm awfully sorry.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, Frank's. This show is going out on Facebook Live as we speak and I waffle, but it's under the banner Scout Francis. So you'll have to look for that name, and then the subtitle is the Frank Carlyle Show, and it's gone out live.
There I am on my back with a little glass of water. Wow.
Whiskey in it.
Oh, this is mad, you know. I was really perched. Got a little glass of water, look.
Yeah.
So, anyway, what I want to start off with, I'm sorry about this that I haven't got any visuals to show up. I really haven't. And it was just a thing I wanted to do. And normally I have visuals. I have visuals, but unfortunately, I haven't this time. And funny enough, Gary says Liverpool is the New York City of the UK.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Totally agree.
There was a writer, Alan Owen, Liverpool writer. He went over to live in New York. This was in the late 50s, early 60s. And he said, this is remarkable. The people and the city are so like Liverpool. And a few years later, as you know, John Lennon had said the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
Strange, that, isn't it?
And it's strange.
New Yorkers and the city itself and the people.
It's a wonderful mix of people coming into the city.
Yeah.
The river, of course, which takes us away. And the energy, there's a real similarity of you walk the streets and there's an energy. It felt, when Lenny and I went, which is going back 20 years ago now, it felt like home. No, it didn't feel like, you heard a lot of people telling us, don't look at maps, don't look like you don't look where you're going, don't talk to policemen, all of this negativity about New York. And when we went there, it just felt like Liverpool.
Yeah.
Hi, great.
It's surprising, isn't it? How much a city, if you know what I mean, can look like another city. And, it reminds you, I'll tell you a little city I have been to a couple of times, and it just reminds me of Liverpool when you get off the train at Central Station up there. And the people are the same type of humour, and that's Glasgow.
Glasgow, yeah.
Glasgow is very much like us, honestly. And they don't take fools alike.
Yeah.
And James MK. Good evening, Frank and Anthony. Good evening, James.
Good evening, James.
Good to have you aboard here. Well, I want to start with this particular murder. And what it is, as I said, there's no visuals, unfortunately. And it was about a fella by the name of Morris. Gary Rigby, Glasgow was right. Is right. And this fella, Irish, he was born just outside Limerick, just outside Limerick, and softly spoken, but he was a bit of a villain. He was a bit of a villain, and he was a thief as well. And he got caught, whatever, in Limerick, so he decided to get off. So he got off, came over to England, and when he came over, he went to London first, then he went down to Portsmouth, for a place in Portsmouth. Then he made his way up to Liverpool, and he found these lodgings. And when he found the lodgings, he ended up marrying the landlady. But this Morris Gleeson, anyway, he was abusive to her. He was abusive. And what she did to get out of the relationship, she sold the house under his nose and went to live with her dad. So he had nothing. He was homeless. But he was involved with this girl, and she was a mysterious type of girl. But the girl was waiting, and I'll come to that a bit later on. So anyway, he was looking for lodgings, and he got some lodgings. He got some lodgings down the south end of the city, and in Frederick Street. So we got some lodgings there. And then he started to like mosey around and whatever. I don't think he got any jobs. Then all of a sudden, he showed up at Leveson Street looking for lodgings. He just showed up there, knocked on the door. Now, the lady of the house was married to a Danish sea captain. And she came from a nice background, a very good background. And her parents even said, "What are you marrying him for?" Hendrickson, his name was. Sea captain, Danish sea captain. You marry him below your station. And that's what it was like in those days. But nevertheless, she married. And she had 2 children. Anyway, he was on a deep sea voyage, and he was away for months. But also Anne Hendrickson, she was a music teacher, and she used to teach music at her home. It's a big house. She used to teach music there, and she had pupils, coming. And this was for extra income, because back in the day, like, it wasn't, if you're a seafarer today, you always got, I forget what you call it, but you got money, to keep the family going, like each week or each month. I don't know, I'm not quite too sure. But anyway, there was none of that then. So she decided to bring in a lodger. She also had a maid, like an housekeeper, sort of thing, named Mary Parr. More about her later. Now, the fella came, now he changed his name from Morris to John Wilson Gleeson. So he changed his name. Now, this fella's had a few pseudonyms, to be honest. He's had quite a few of them. So anyway, this John Wilson Gleeson, he goes to this house in Leveson Street, and says, I believe you've got a room to spare for a lot. So anyway, he was brought in, and the girl asked him, have you got any references? He said, oh no, he said, I haven't got any. So that was that. And she said, okay, because he was softly spoken, nice, and nicely presented. So anyway, she took him in, and she gave him the back parlour, the house. That was it. That's where he stayed. That was his little room there, with a bed in, of course. Anyway, what has happened, which is rather strange, he goes about Liverpool, and he's not working, by the way. He doesn't work. I don't think he's ever worked, to be honest. Now, even back in Ireland, I don't think he ever worked. He was a thief. So anyway, he's meandering around Liverpool. And now, don't forget, he has other lodgings. In Liverpool. So you've got to ask yourself, why did he go to Leveson Street? Why did he go there to get lodgings? Was there a motive? And was there a motive for him to change his name? Was there a motive? So, you have this situation now where he's got one set of lodgings in Liverpool and another set of lodgings. And the point is, how did he find out about the lodgings in Leveson Street? That's the point. How did he find out? And what you've got to ask yourself too is, who told him about Leveson Street? And who told him about the vacancy? Because it just come up. It wasn't in the papers or anything. Room to let. And he just showed up. There. And as I said, even one of their neighbours, and Hendrickson's neighbours said he had no references. Why did you let him have it? But she was a nice lady. She trusted people, like we all trust people.
Yeah.
We just trust people. Anyway, she gave him the room, but he was always meandering about, coming home. And one day, little Henry, he was the oldest of the two children. He was 5 years of age. The other lads was 2 years of age. And he come running out of the parlour where this Gleason fella was living. And he was screaming, and Gleason was slapping him about.
Wow.
And they said, oh, you can't do that. Don't be slapping children about. Think on a minute. You could go to jail for that. So anyway, that settled down. And then one day, Anne Hendrickson walks out to do some shopping. And she says to Mary Parr, listen, I'm going out, I won't be long. So look after the children. And so she said, okay, yeah, no problem, it's my job. So anyway, she goes out, looking after the children is Mary Parr. She does the shopping, but the shopping's too heavy to bring home. So she asked for a delivery, and they said, yeah, no problem, we'll deliver it later on. So anyway, she goes back home. Now later on, an hour or so later, I think it was a couple of hours, the young delivery boy comes to the house, and he couldn't get any answer. And he had this shopping I said, what's it with it? What's it with it? So he was knocking on the door, couldn't get any, ringing the bell, couldn't get any satisfaction. So he brings the shopping back. He said, I can't get any answer. He said, oh, she mustn't have gone home. She must have gone shopping somewhere else, go later on. And with that, a young girl who's going for a music lesson, she's banging on the door. She's banging on the door because it was time for her to have a music lesson. Now, my little granddaughter, Sophia, she goes for her music lessons once a week. So, they're on time. Francine makes sure that she's there on time for the music lessons. And it was same as this young girl. And she couldn't get an answer. And anyway, she was banging, and there was this bricklayer, he was walking past, and he heard the fuss, and he said, what's wrong? And she said, I can't get any answer. Someone was bound to come to the door and answer the door. Even if Mrs. Hendrickson, wouldn't answer the door, the maid would open the door and answer me. So anyway, the bricklayer, he decided to have a look through the keyhole. And what he's seen, just through the keyhole, there's no letterboxes then, and they weren't. And as he was looking through the keyhole, what he's seen was two pairs of legs outstretched on the floor. Couldn't see nothing else because he couldn't focus any around. He just seen the legs. And as I said, two pairs of legs. Not one, but two. So anyway, he said, there's something wrong here. So he smashed the window and he was looking in. Now, they were only small panes, so he couldn't fit through there. So he decided to smash the window of the door and open the latch. And he walked in. And what he seen was three people on the floor. The two pairs of legs was of a lady, and the other pair of a child. And there was another body on the floor who belonged to a young girl. What I mean is, the maid. But they were still alive. And when a constable came down, because policeman came, and he said, all right, let me look around them. Just stand back. Because they were in the house, and there was neighbours in the house. They were all saying what the commotion was. So anyway, he went in the back. And I went into that room, the parlour room, where they found the little 2-year-old, John, dead, with his head decapitated. So they got them to the Royal Southern Hospital, where they were barely alive. And unfortunately, Anne died, and so did little Henry. They died. And they tried to get a statement. Of Mary Parr. And she said it was James Gleason. And they said, who's he? No, this is another name. He had James Gleason. Now, he's got that out, the lodgings under the pseudonym of John. Now, don't forget his proper name was Morris. That's what he was born with. So anyway, he said James Gleason. He was a lodger. And unfortunately, she expired. She died. So they're out looking for this fella. They're out looking. Oh, another thing. When they went and searched the rooms, there was jewellery missing. And there was cash missing. And the most expensive piece of jewellery after this, searching, it was a gold watch because Mary Parr said about the gold watch. She said, it must have been a robbery, and a gold watch. And this is where I'm coming back to it a bit later on. So anyway, they scoured everywhere, and the first thing that they did, they went to pawnbrokers, seeing if anyone was pawning a watch. That's what you do. You'd even do it today if anything happens like that.
Yeah.
You go to a pawn shop, as you know, Anthony. Then the next, you go to see this pawnbroker, and he said, well, someone came in, inquiring if he wanted to, buy a watch, not pawn it, but buy it. But he looked a little bit disheveled to me, and I didn't trust him, and I thought this could be stolen. So I said no. But he went to a couple more, and they said exactly the same. So they got a good description. And they knew, and Gleason knew that they'd be looking for it because he was full of blood and everything. Blood on him. Anyway, see, what Mary Parr said, as soon as, Mrs. Hendrickson got back to the house, he just attacked her. And this is where she was found, in the hallway. He just attacked her, with a blunt instrument. Anyway, you see that with this, watch, this was the most damning evidence. So what he decided to do, he knew about this fella, a grocer named Samuels, and he goes to him and he said, do you want to buy a watch? And he said, let's have a look at it. So he looks at it, he went, and he said, well, what do you want for it? He said, I want £12. He said, I'm not giving you £12 for that, no way. So anyway, he goes away. Then he knows that he's being hunted. Now, don't forget, he's gone back to his lodgings. He changed into other clothing, getting rid of the blood-stained ones. He goes to a barber, and he said, "Can you cut me hair and clean shave me?" Yeah, okay. And he said, "I'm going bald." He said, "Do you know anyone who sells wigs?" Are you talking about the mid-19th century here? He said, "Wigs?" He said, "What do you want a wig for?" He said, "Well, I'm going bald and I don't like my appearance." So he said, "I don't know, mate." He said, "I don't know anything about wigs or, people who make them." So he said, "Okay." Now, what he was trying to do was change his appearance completely. So anyway, the police were after him. So what he decided to do, now he had to get away. And the cheap passage to America was £3.50. Not 50 pence, £3 10 shilling. Right, £3 10 shilling to get away to America. So he actually goes back to the Samuel fella. So Samuel goes like that. "Yeah, okay, I'll buy it." He said, "But I'm only going to give you £6." Now, what Gleason said was, "Can you give me any more?" Because he knew getting a passage over to America is all right for £3 10 shilling. But it's when you get there, you've got to have some money, something at least. And he said, "Send me it for £7. Just sell me it for £7. I'll take an extra £1." So he said, okay. So anyway, as he was buying it, Samuel said, yeah, there's a receipt. I want you to sign this receipt that I'm the owner. I bought it off you. Because if you don't sign the receipt, I'm stuck in limbo because, if anyone wants to buy it or it comes across that something's being stolen, and this could be
Yeah.
the gold watch. He
Yeah.
said, but he wouldn't sign it. He wouldn't sign it for some reason. Well, the reason being, it'll go right to him, right to Gleason, that he's the murderer. So he left it. He left it. He just said, no, leave it. So anyway, Samuels, he thought that there's something wrong here. He didn't want to sign a receipt for me. So he informed the police. So what has happened was the police said if he comes back again, which he might do, in all probability, he might do and will do to get this money. He said, inform us, give him the money and we'll have him. Because he had an idea that he wanted to get away, and the only form of transport then to get out of the country was ships.
Yeah.
So everybody was aware now. If anyone went for a ticket, a passage to anywhere, never mind just America, but to anywhere. So anyway, they said, okay. And the next was this. He went down to Samuel's again, but the police were there at the time. The police, and they nabbed him. They grabbed him, and he had the watch. He had everything on him. Now let's get back to the 30 years. How did he know about Levinson Street? How did he know? How did he know that there was a flat to let? How did he?
He meets a young girl somewhere.
Okay, but who do you think the young girl was?
Mary
Mary Pearl. Mary Pearl. And she told him about they've got money. They've got money and jewellery, expensive jewellery. And I can get you in there. Now, this is only theory. This is only theory that she was involved in it. That she was knocking about with him. And she actually vouched for him. She actually vouched for him. And James says, the cleaning lady, yes. So she vouched for him. And that's how he got in the little thing. Now, what it says is that they planned to rob her, and he was supposed to just give her a belt. He dropped the thing, but he went too far. And he killed, or he thought he killed, like Mrs. Ensham when she came back from shopping, Hendrickson when she came back from shopping.
Yeah.
And the little boy was there, and he battered him as well.
Witness.
Exactly. And the little lad, the little 2-year-old was screaming in the in the house, and he dragged him through to it's like the parlour where he was living, where he was staying, and he killed him there. He decapitated him. He's only a little 2-year-old, so it's easily to, if you've got a big knife, it's easy to decapitate. And Mary Parr, she was the witness.
Yeah.
So he killed her, or he thought he killed him. He thought he killed him. again, what you've got to, this is why he has a pseudonym, John Wilson. Getting so the people, the police, that is, they'd be looking for um, John Wilson, not Gleason, James Gleason. They wouldn't be looking for him. And don't forget, it's not like today. And he changed his appearance and everything. Now, if Mary Parr, if she wouldn't have given who did it, they'd be well away from, their like detective things. They'd be well away.
Yeah.
They'd be unaware. They'd just be looking for this John Wilson, who never existed. Never existed. So he killed a lot. He killed 4 people for a bloody gold watch. A gold watch and a little bit of cash. And James says, was the cleaning lady Irish? Do you know what? Again, that's a good question, that, James. Because people say that she was Irish. Because when young girls came over from, Ireland into Liverpool, don't forget, there was more millionaires living in Liverpool, in the mid-19th century. That's why we built our own Bank of England. So there was, lots of domestic work going on. And one girl named Geraldine Fitzgerald, she came over. And Geraldine Fitzgerald was a little domestic. But when the owner of where she was working as a domestic tried to come onto it because she was very pretty, she got off. And she got a job in a pub. And that girl became known as, who do you think she became known as? Very famous.
Mary Kelly.
Oh, no, not Mary Kelly. No, not Mary Kelly. But she was Irish as well, Mary. This is very famous. You know it, They sing a song about her.
Maggie May.
Here you go. Bang on. Maggie May. See, it's strange how, like, abuses and people turn out the way they are.
Yeah.
People turn out the way they are. Like Geraldine Fitzgerald.
Wow.
Good, eh?
Yeah.
And she was known as Maggie. And do you know she got a name? Well, her second name was Margaret, by the way. And, when she got out of that, like, she went down to work in the cotton exchange, not the cotton, what's the pub facing the slaughterhouse? Is it the corn exchange?
Corn market.
What?
Corn market.
Yeah, that's where she worked.
Wow.
She had to work in there. And fellas were trying to get a grip of her there. And she succumbed. And she said, well, why not take money? And that was it. And that particular episode, when by the time the First World War came up, because the red light district was obviously the pierhead, and the ships were coming in. And when the First World War came about, she said to the girls, because they were banned there, they said, no, you know what I mean? There's no way any prostitutes or anything like that. No one. The only people who could work down there were admin workers and dockers. So she said, it's all right, girls. let's go up to Lime Street Station where the soldiers and sailors will be getting off the trains. Hence Maggie May.
Yeah.
Maggie May. You know, it's brilliant. You know, it's great how they make up songs. But this guy, getting back to this James Gleeson, he was caught. He was caught, arrested, and then he was put on trial. He was put on trial, Anthony. And then when he was put on trial, the jury, they didn't even go out to the, you know, the way they retire and go out into the, wherever they go into the jury room. They just stood there and found him guilty right away. And he was sentenced to hang, a public hanging at Kirkdale Jail. 50,000 people showed up. 50,000 people. And I think the hangman's name, I'm not quite so sure, was Calcraft, a fellow named Calcraft. And what he did, this fellow was always buried. He's always buried, the hangman. Did you know, Anthony, you know, a hangman, that they had to go on trial, face a judge for murder? Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a kind of an oath thing, like a doctor's oath, where obviously a doctor's pledge is to save life.
No, it wasn't a trial as such. They just went before a judge, and the judge had to fine them 1 shilling
for every death.
Every death. They never paid it, like, you know what I mean. They never come out of their money, but yeah. Strange, isn't it?
I remember reading a lot in my youth about Albert Pierrepoint.
Pierrepoint, yeah.
Yeah, who ultimately kept a pub, didn't he, towards Southport way, was it? In the north.
Yeah. That was St. Helens way.
Wow.
And you know what? He used to drink with his mate. Right, you know, his mate. So a bevy every night or, you know, whenever. And his mate, who used to drink with, murdered his wife. And he hanged him. Got sentenced to death and he hanged him. Pierrepoint. Fancy hanging you, mate.
I tell you what, though, if you wanted it done properly, if you're going to go, then I'd rather, you know.
And he was good. He was the best.
Yeah.
And at the Nuremberg trials, he hanged more people than anyone.
Yeah.
He hanged a lot. No, not a lot, but, you know. He hanged more people who were found guilty at the Nuremberg trials. He was great. And he said to his mate, which is on record, he said to him, I'll make this quick. Don't be worrying. I'll make it quick. Give him a drop of scotch. Went like that. Within seconds of drinking the scotch, stepped off the thing, bang, gone. So he was hanged, this fella. But Calcraft, I think that was his name, he was always bevied. And they tried to ban him once. They tried to ban him because he was drunk. But he miscalculated Gleeson's drop. He miscalculated. And when he put the, you know, the hood, you have to put hoods on them.
Yeah.
But you have certain size hoods. And the hood he couldn't get right over the face. So as he dropped, as I said, he miscalculated the drop. And as he dropped, he was hanging there and the hood came off.
Oh.
And people were screaming.
It was horrific.
They seen his face and they seen what was happening with his eyes popping out and his tongue elongated and blood. and it was the most horriblest thing. And he was kicking. You know, he couldn't be, not screaming, but, you know, kicking because his body was shaking unmercifully. All the nerves in it. It took 15 minutes for him to die. Strangulation. But as people said, you know, it was a good thing because of what he did with those young children.
Just as
And, you know, the mother and Mary Park. So that was that. That was that. It's known as the Levinson Street Massacre.
wow. And what year was that?
It's around 1870 or so. I forget the year.
Wow.
1870. I'm only going off memory because I used to lecture about it. I thought it was a cracking thing. I really did. Thought it was a cracking little thing to do. And that was the last public hanging, by the way.
Wow.
No more in Liverpool. No, they said no more now. That's it. Cause chaos. Riot. Everyone running everywhere. Everyone running everywhere. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Because I was always of the opinion that the last hanging in the 50s, and Ruth Ellis sadly comes to mind, but it was actually 1964
Yeah, that's right. 2 Welsh lads.
when two gentlemen were convicted of murder, and one was hung in Liverpool and one in Manchester.
Manchester, yeah.
But they didn't let out any word that they were to be hung, because in the pipeline was the abolition of
Yeah. Capital punishment, yeah.
yeah.
There were 2 Welsh lads, actually. 2 Welsh, 64. But that was the last public hanging,
Yeah.
with Gleeson. But you know that he was up to no good. He had different names. He had like different lodgings. You know, why go to one lodging? 18, yeah.
That was his way of life.
He had many aliases, even in Ireland. But to rob is one thing, but to kill kids and murder.
Yeah.
1849 it was. 1849.
Wow.
So you
Thanks,
see,
Frank.
it's just the way it is. Back in the day. And even coming into the 20th century, you mentioned Ruth Ellis. And Ruth Ellis, you know, today she wouldn't have never have been hanged.
No,
Never have been hanged.
she
Would
wouldn't.
she?
And was it Albert who hung her, and then he started to get very, very upset at the thought that, as we're talking really, and we're not gods, we're not anything like that, but it's some people you would say deserve it, and some people obviously don't, shouldn't be there, and it shouldn't happen to them. And obviously,
Yeah.
thinking of the cameo murders as well, and
Well, the thing is, as well, there was a lad named John Todd, and John Todd, he made a statement after the hanging Pierpont I'm talking about,
yeah,
and he said, "I've hanged an innocent boy." That's what he said. You know, so how many people, if there was still capital punishment today, if there was you know, put it this way, if there was a capital punishment today, going on. How many people would have been hanged? You've only got, I'll just give you 2 examples. The Birmingham 6 and the Guildford 4. They would have been hanged, and they were innocent.
Yeah.
And James says, a cast was made of Gleason's head, and a man from London is said to have bought his clothes to a place on a wax figure of the murderer to go on display at Madame Tussauds Chamber of Horrors.
Wow.
And all 4 murder victims were buried in St. James's Cemetery. Thank you, James, for that. Stay with us. And after the break, we'll have some other wonderful stuff. And James most probably will comment. Thank you, James. Well done.
This is a street called Hope. It links 2 great cathedrals, the Anglican and the Metropolitan Cathedral of Christ the King. And these 2 fine-looking gentlemen are Archbishop Derek Warlock and the Reverend David Shepherd. You can bring these 2 buildings together with a street, but how do you bring people together? Well, these 2 Liverpool heroes did, and this is where we remember them. Of course, great structures can make up a city, but the real heartbeat lies within the people. And like any city throughout its history, there have been unassuming heroes and some terrible villains. The Albert Dock, full of tourists, full of children playing, being educated by the school trips. Going back to the 19th century, it was a very, very dangerous place to be, and it involved kids as well. Why would children pose such a threat in the 19th century? Charles Dickens, who we mentioned before, stood right here as a special constable observing criminals at work. The criminals under his observation were young boys known as the 40 Thieves. This is how the 40 Thieves did it. They surrounded their hapless victims and they moved in very quickly, taking everything away from them. The victims in some cases were left destitute and ended up in the workhouses. This child gang were like piranha as they homed in on easy prey. But who were the easy prey? They were migrants waiting here on the quayside. Ironically, from the hope of a better life in the New World, America in particular, to the hardship of workhouses that Dickens himself so deplored. The child gang of the 40 Thieves became the catalyst for Fagin's gang and Oliver Twist. It's hard to imagine that such young boys could ruin the lives of people trying to make a better life for themselves. Isn't it funny the way things turn round? You'd never come here because it was too dangerous. But look at it now. The child gang of the 40 Thieves, therefore, were the ruination of so many people's lives. That's why they're on the list of Liverpool villains. from the 40 thieves to two pioneering heroes, father and son, James and Wyndham Sadler. They sound like actors, don't they, with the names like that? But they weren't, let me tell you. It was right here that an amazing feat had taken place in April 1817. This is the new Shavash Park. And way back in 1784, James Sadler became the very first British aeronaut to ascend in a balloon. There was one thing that James Sadler wanted to do, and try as he might, he could never do it, and that was cross an expanse of water, because other balloonists, no matter where they came from, wouldn't dare try to cross an expanse of water. James Sadler tried and tried and tried. However, he always failed to cross from Liverpool to Dublin. And getting on in years, he eventually gave up his quest. And his son, Wyndham Sadler, promised his dad. He said, "Dad, I'll do it for you. And I'll do it, and I'll do it now." Wyndham took his dad's flowcharts and he studied them intensely. And instead of crossing from Liverpool to Dublin and failing, Wyndham decided to cross from Dublin to Liverpool. In April 1817, Wyndham Sadler ascended from Dublin in his balloon and successfully crossing the Irish Sea. From his great pioneering feat of 1817 to a disaster in 1823 when Wyndham Sadler's balloon crashed on the moors near Blackburn, and he's buried in Christ Church Cemetery here in Liverpool. He is one of the true Liverpool heroes.
How about that, Anthony?
Amazing. I love that concept of where there's evil, there's always good, and we strive for good to outweigh it. But which brings into mind really a question that is probably bigger than us: why are we fascinated with the bad people in life?
Well, I think with good people, what you've got, I could go on about good people.
Yeah.
I could go on about good people, but I don't think it's boring. But other people do. Now, if you mention the bad people, the likes of that James Gleeson, you see what I mean? You go, oh, you become fascinated.
No,
and when you talk about, you mentioned, well, you never mentioned George Kelly by name, but George Kelly was hanged for the Cameo murders, and he was innocent of them, and he was found innocent in the 70s. It took to the 70s to find him not guilty. So there was but it's fascinating, you see. You're looking in depth. As I mentioned, John Todd, who was brought murder. Murder. He murdered like the fella who he worked for. He was only 21 years of age, and he was a quiet lad. He was a religious lad.
Yeah.
And as Pierpont said, I've hanged an innocent lad. The lad was innocent. He was hanged. And you're talking about I think it was 1950s, 55 or something, 54, 55, something like that. Even his girlfriends, they went to church together every Sunday. He was quiet. And it was all because of a bloody watch. was all because of a watch. And, the fella presented him a watch because he was working so hard for him. Because this fella fixed watches. It was known as the Old Curiosity Shop at Warbrick Mall. That's where it was. And he was found murdered, the old man. And he blamed him, John Todd. He blamed him. And unfortunately, he was found guilty and he was hanged. He was hanged. So it's things like that, excuse me, as I say, Anthony, it's things to get your teeth into. And if you can't get your teeth into, it's things like that, which is fascinating. Is fascinating if you get your things into things. I'm going to show this map. Now, as I said before, I'm going to not concentrate. I showed this ages ago on the show, and that's in Lime Street, right? Yeah. That's in Lime Street. And when I show this map, you'll be made up in it. Right, now then, I'm going to show you something here. Hopefully I can. I'm going to show you something here. Right. Yeah. Now, if you look up there, this is the colonnade. Now look where it goes. Right along and right up there. Yeah. Right along and right up there. Now, that's Lime Street Station. That's Lime Street Station. And it's had the biggest glass roof in the entire world at the time. The biggest. And it's had this colonnade around it. Right around it. Look at it. Fantastic. Right around it. That beautiful colonnade. Yeah. He pulled it down. He pulled it down. You couldn't make these things up. He pulled it down. And also what you've got to look at also is this. This is St. John's Church here. Yeah. And this is a cemetery. This is the cemetery right around it. The cemetery. Right? And people often say, I've been asked loads of times, why wasn't this built showing the gardens? Well, they couldn't build it into, or the plateau, into this, because the church was there. And also there was a cemetery.
Sacred?
Yeah, of course. So what they did, and people think that it was built back to front, and it wasn't built back to front. That's a terrible myth. It wasn't built back to front. And it was built the right way around, because where the plateau is, and the wonderful steps leading up to St. George's Hall, it was so that people could get off Lime Street Station, come through here, and that was the entrance. Come through here and look what they looked at there. They looked at that. What a magnificent building. Magnificent.
So
they knocked that down. Yeah. Well, by 1896, they knocked that down. They knocked it down. And a fellow by the name, I forget his bloody name, he designed a garden. He designed this here. He designed a garden. And unfortunately, all the people who were buried there were taken up. God knows where they went. God knows where they went. But they never removed 2,000 French prisoners of war who are still there. They're still there. And, you know, what we call St. John's Gardens today. We call it St. John's Gardens. And they're still there, unfortunately, French prisoners, because they had nowhere to put them. They had nowhere to put them. But I want to show you something else as well, which is fascinating. To me it is anyway. Because I was brought up here. I was brought up here. And there, you know, there's Wellington's column, as you know. Wellington's column. That was the library, believe it or not. That was the big library. And what you can't see is the, which is not there, that hasn't even been built by the time this was done. The Walker Gallery or the Sessions House. But anyway, this is where I grew up here. I grew up here. This was Jerry Gardens and Jerry Crescent, where I'm pointing now. That big place there. Jerry Gardens, Jerry Crescent, that's where I grew up. All these places here were courts. They were all courts, horrible courts, where people, you know, lived, rat infested, cockroach infested, just horrible places, all these courts around there. Anyway, they were pulled down. But I want to show you, that's when Jerry Gardens was built. Well, I want to show you something there, and it's this, and it's a church. It's a church.
Yeah.
Now that church, when that was pulled down, when we lived in Jerry Gardens, you know, little kids, us little kids, we used to go and play football. And we used to call it the gravy because it was a graveyard. The church was well gone, but we used to just call that the gravy. And who was buried there was one of Liverpool's greats. One of Liverpool's greats. Now you can imagine me playing football on his grave and my little mates also. Because there was a little bit of green, you see. And we only played football on concrete. But, you know, a little bit of green. We used to go over and have a match or whatever, kick the ball about. And it was Wyndham Sadler.
Wow.
Wyndham Sadler was buried there. And do you know what? When they took the intares out, people who were buried there, no one knows where James went to, Wyndham went to. They don't know where he's buried. Because they reburied him, you see. And no one knows. God knows where he was.
Was he not buried where he died?
Sorry?
Was he buried where he died?
No, he was brought home. He died, Wyndham Sadler, he was killed. And did I mention, because they showed a clip, and I was making a cup of tea.
In the film? Yeah.
Right, you know, he crossed an expanse of water in April 1817.
Yeah.
But in 1823, he's up in his balloon over the Lancashire moors. And unfortunately, he crashed near Blackburn and he was killed. So they brought him home back to Liverpool. And that's where he was buried in that church there. The church. So he's buried there in the graveyard, this is, I think, there, just in front of it, was the graveyard. And that's where he was buried. But we don't know where he's buried today after him there. I want to show you something else as well.
Yeah.
While we're at it. I hope I hear it. Hope I hear it. Let's see. else we got here? See this here? That's a church. That's a church, Anthony. A beautiful, beautiful church. Look at the architecture.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning church. And it was white. The stone was white. Very unusual for a stone. And the church was white. Beautiful dome, everything. And it was called, they pulled it down for summer. I don't know why they pulled it down. It wasn't falling down or anything. But that was the norm back in the day, to pull all these wonderful buildings down. And that was St. Paul's Church.
Oh.
Now remember St. Paul's Eye Hospital?
Yes.
I went on the site of it. St. Paul's Eye Hospital.
So
This is unbelievable.
Old Hall Street.
Yeah. Can I just, I want to point something else out. I just want to go to a few, as James says, Oliver Twist, pick a pocket or two. Yes.
Yeah.
The Midnight Toker. By midnight, Harry puts his thumbs up. James again, he says, amazing to know such stories we don't know. It's great to delve back into it. I used to own a curiosity. Did you? Wow.
Wow.
And the massacre on Leveson Street in 1849, a little bit more info on it. And it wasn't just the gory details concerning the bloodsheds where Hendrickson, who was heavily pregnant, I forgot to mention that, their sons Henry and John and their maid Mary Parr were killed. And there are some drawing plans. Thank you, James. He's talking about these things. He's talking about that. But isn't it fascinating? Now, I wanted to ask you this. Do you see behind there, in front of it, where do you think that is? What do you think it is? That big long thing there. And it goes right along. And there, it ends there. And if you were walking up Tyburn Street, and you were looking, say, from there to there, over there, and you see there the face of it, where do you think it is?
It's not the Strand, is it? As you know, the river. No.
No. It's hang on a minute. This thing always fucking sticks. This thing always sticks. This is Tyburn Street. This is Tyburn Street there, right?
Yeah.
And say like me and you were standing there, and we were looking over at that.
Yeah.
That's still there. But what's that behind it? If you have a look carefully, what's that big long thing? Shall I tell you?
Yeah.
It's Exchange Station. Exchange Station.
Wow.
And what we'd be looking at is the facade of Exchange Station. How about that? Good, eh?
Beautiful. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad that the sections of it still with us.
Yeah. See, look, when you look down there, look at the docks. Full.
Yeah.
Full. Look at that paddle street.
Paddle steamer.
Really gets to
me. Yeah.
Sorry about this. It's just that this thing keeps sticking. Anyway, where am I? Yeah. So that is a paddle steamer.
Yeah.
You can see it, can't you?
Yeah. Mississippi.
I hope I can show you this.
Absolutely mind blowing. The drawing of it, etching, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Architecture.
Yeah. And when you look at this, St. Nick's Church.
Yeah.
Do you know how this was done? It was done from a balloon. It
Oh,
was done from a balloon. Isn't that incredible?
it is incredible. It's incredible that they did it, but when you think about it, they would have no other way of getting a perspective or height. But
No.
Jules Verne.
And look at that's our town hall. There's Nelson's monument. It's incredible. It really is incredible when you look at these wonderful, wonderful etchings. Really. And the likes of that there. This.
Yeah.
That was the very first Bank of England outside London.
Wow.
Outside London. Because as I said at the time, there was more millionaires living in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And our lads, the merchants, they said, oh, why have we got to go down to London all the time? You know, to Threadneedle Street, the Bank of England. So they got Professor Sir Charles Cockerell, a great architect, international architect. He said, listen, can you build us a bank? He said, well, what kind of a bank do you want? He said, the Bank of England. We're going to call it the Bank of England. He went, yeah, do that, no problems. And when you look at it, it's still there in Castle Street. I love the building.
Well, it's just been sold, hasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's
just been sold to a well-respected restaurant company, and it will be open to the public to go in and see. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. At least it's going to be utilised then.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
It's been closed for so many years, hasn't it?
I've been in there, yeah. I went in, I'm talking years ago. Not as a customer, like, but these surveyors or something, you know, let me in. And it's beautiful. Beautiful inside. Absolutely stunning inside. And that's the beauty of our wonderful, wonderful look at that. Look at that.
Metropolis.
Oh, that
is
was St. George's Church.
Wow.
That was. And what's there in its place is Victoria's monument.
Yes.
Now, there's only been 3 things on that site, which I'm very pleased about, you know. Very pleased about. Just 3 things since 1207, when we got, you know, when Liverpool became Liverpool.
Yeah.
And the other one on that site is this, the castle.
Yeah.
So the castle came down as, you know, approximately 1234 when it was built. And this wonderful thing was put in its place, St. George's Church.
Wow.
And then, sorry, go on.
No, today.
Well, today.
Like a third cathedral, isn't it?
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge. One of our great architects was John Foster Jr., John Foster Jr., and his dad, John Foster Sr.,
Yeah.
John Foster Sr. And they were two great Liverpool architects. And to make that safe, now don't forget, this was built in 1728. Yes, 1728. And like it, 100 or so years later, they were afraid that it could be deteriorating. So they sent for John Foster Jr. and he strengthened it and he put his own mark on it. He put his own mark on it as well. And so you have two great architects. The one who designed it at the beginning, and I haven't told you who it was yet, and John Foster Jr., who strengthened it, over 100 years later. And the fellow who designed it was Thomas Steers. Thomas Steers designed St. George's Church. Now, Thomas Steers designed the very first wet dock in the entire world that opens its things in there.
Amazing.
1750.
What a visionary.
Oh, incredible. Absolutely amazing, Thomas Steers. And he was Dutch. To pronounce his name, we anglicised his name from Thomas Steers. Thomas Steers to Thomas Steers. We love anglicising names. We just love it for some unknown reason. I think that's great. I really do. Really do.
It's wonderful that the person who just put it together draws our attention to some of the most beautiful buildings by strengthening them, making them darker than the rest, so they stand out.
And this is one of my favourites of all time. This. Look at that.
Just fabulous.
The fifth custom house. And look at that. That's the Sailor's Home.
Yeah.
Now that was built in 1841 by John Cunningham. And as I mentioned before about one of our great architects, John Foster Jr., he designed this. He designed the custom house. And look at the size of it. Incredible. Incredible. Both of them gone. Both of them are gone. Shocking. Vandalism. Criminal vandalism by people in authority. And that's where I fume, Anthony.
Yeah.
I fume at it. Absolutely fume at it. And another thing which we saved, actually, well, it wasn't us who saved it. It's this beautiful thing. All this. And that's the Albert Dock.
Yeah.
That's the Albert Dock.
Wonderful. Jesse Hartley.
Yes, indeed. Jesse Hartley. And you know what? As you know, we were knocking that down.
Yeah.
We were knocking that down. And Michael Heseltine over the Westland affair with Katya because she sold off our helicopter. Well, the Westlands helicopters at the time in the in the 80s, talking about, were the best in the world, and she sold them off to America. She sold everything off to America, Thatcher, and because she always wanted to be buddy with them, as they say. Anyway, Heseltine was saying, don't sell them, don't sell them, don't sell it, please don't sell it. And she sold them, and he came out. I'll never forget it. I was watching the news, and he came out, and he said, I've just resigned from the cabinet. And I thought he was going to bring her down. I loved him to have brought her down.
Yeah.
But anyway, he just resigned, and she demoted him for humiliating her. And she, without him, we would not have this today, the Albert Dock. Because when he came up, he was like demoted to Minister of Merseyside.
Yeah.
He said, that'll teach you, that'll teach you too, more or less. But he done a lot for Liverpool. And I don't like the Tories, as you know. I despise them. And when he came, he was looking around, and he said, "What? He brought him down there." He said, "What are you doing there?" He said, "Oh, we're going to pull that down, and we haven't decided what to do yet." And he said, "Do you realise what that is?" He said, "Well, it's decrepit now, so we're pulling it down." He said, "Do you realise what that is?" He knew about it. He knew about the dock, the Albert Dock, being the very first, enclosed dock in the entire world. For the goods to be put in storage for safety from the pilfering that was going on all around the world, not just here. And he built that, as you said, Jesse Hartley, and they wanted to pull it down. The mind boggles when you look at the Albert Dock. When you look at the Albert Dock, and you look at that, and you look at that, bink, bink, bink. Just imagine those three things gone, but two went. Two actually went. And you see that church there? That church, that's St. Thomas's Church. And St. Thomas's Church was where a man was married there, and he was buried there. And he's a well-known man. And that well-known man is none other than Joseph Williamson, the Mole of Edgehill.
Yeah.
He was married, he was an eccentric. And on his day of his marriage in that church, in St. Thomas's Church there, right, he said, as soon as the marriage was, now I pronounce your man and wife, he was standing there in a pink velvet suit, riding suit. And he said to his wife, I'm going riding now. He said, so go back and I'll see you for dinner. Make sure that it's ready. So she said, yeah, all right. All right, then I will, yeah. I won't burn the chips. It's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
What's crazy is that his burial, where he's buried, is now a car park, isn't it?
Yeah. The library, yeah. The library, yeah. It's mad, isn't it?
Oh,
But isn't that fantastic?
absolutely fantastic.
I love it, you know. I love
That,
all this.
that's
Well, you know, I might come back to that a bit later. If not, we'll do more next week.
yeah.
Well, we will do more next week anyway, you know, which is fascinating. But more to show. More to show. It's unbelievable. I'm gonna do this now. Where am I? Yes. I'll remove that. I'll bring this up. And it's this. And I think this is like this.
Oh, beautiful. So
Yeah,
that,
I think it was with what you said before with the Bank of England.
yeah,
Um, and Ian Max said the Ivy chain of restaurants have bought it, lads. So
yeah,
should be open again soon. Good news. Absolutely. Thank you, Ian Max. Thank
yeah.
you, Ian.
The Ivy. Yeah,
Yeah. I didn't know, you know, as you know, with the way I am now, can't get out and about, and I'm not on Facebook. Well, I am. Shouldn't say it really. If you
okay.
go, all you people on Facebook, get to a fella by the name of Scouse Francis. Scouse Francis on Facebook,
Yeah,
and
the one and
I think
only.
I think you'd like him. Put it that way, you know, and just send in a friend request to him, and he'll confirm it. He'll confirm it. Watch out for the hackers. Anyway, I'm gonna do this. You ready for this?
Yeah,
Right, so the following is taken from a Daily Post editorial in 1886. The highest type of civilization and the lowest type of savagery are to be found in Liverpool, existing side by side, and in no city in the world can a more startling contrast of two races of mankind, the civilized and the uncivilized, to be found. That's incredible. Now that comes from the Daily Post, a Liverpool newspaper.
yeah,
Not like the Daily Mail or the Daily Express or that other thing that we don't mention. This is from a Liverpool newspaper. Mad, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
And Dr. Michael McElwee says the crimes of the High Rip fell into three categories, known as the wrongdoers' threes, three R's: random violence, robbery, and revenge attacks. Now, if you go like education, before the John Forster Act of 1870, where children had to go to school, not had to, but it was open up for them, and because then it was only known for kids as the three R's. That was reading, writing, and religion.
Yeah,
And look at that one. The three R's: random violence, robbery, and revenge attacks. Incredible.
gang warfare,
Of course, yeah.
which still goes on, in every city. But
Of course it does. But these lads, what I'm going to talk about, these were horrible. These were horrible. And it's just like that, you know, the likes of, what that says, Horrible Murder at Regent's Park. That's not here, obviously, but it's just gives you a taste of what it was like. And penal servitude for the High Rip Gang. And this is what I'm going to talk about, these people. At Liverpool Assizes today. Now, at Liverpool Assizes today, six roughs, that's all they call them, six, not ruffians, but six roughs, members of the High Rip Gang, were convicted of street robbery with violence. 4 of them have been convicted yesterday of burglary at the house of the Chief Detective Superintendent. He burgled his house.
Wow. And he's not
Because, go on.
And he's not going to find you.
But the thing is, they said, we're going to have you. Because something happens, you know, and whatever. And they said, we're going to have you. And that's what they did. They went in and burgled his house. They did burgle his house. Chief Superintendent. The judge said the prisoners were members of a dangerous gang who loafed about the street. Isn't that correct? Loafed about the streets, assaulting and robbing. Only one of them had not been convicted before. He must go to jail for 18 months hard labour, but the others to serve 5 years penal servitude, which was terrible.
Wow.
Strangely enough, getting back to the that Leveson Street murder, that Gleeson had a sister, and she wasn't up to any good either because she was given 10 years penal servitude. So you can imagine what she was up to. So, and that's just like. So they were the IRIP gang. And what has happened was, when they were being brought in, someone smuggled knives into them. So they tried to, they were fighting with the cops. And they were trying to stab them. And as it says there, attempting to stab in Liverpool. And they were the IRIP gang. They were villains. They terrorised the street. They came from the Scotland Road area.
Yeah.
The IRIP gang. And they were known, you know, they were awful. And in the south end of the city, you had another gang who was the same. They were terrorising all their people. And they was known as the Peanut Gang. And they were just horrible people. The 2 sets of gangs, they terrorised everybody, including going down the docks and doing the business down there as well. So it was a very dangerous place to live, Liverpool. Very dangerous at the time.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking the latter part of the 19th century. You know, the 1880s, 1890s. And coming into the 20th century, the early part of the 1900s. So it was very, very dangerous. Just horrible people.
This kind of thing has been kind of glamorized, and we've all enjoyed it on TV as part of like the Peaky Blinders thing. But these were our version of Peaky Blinders.
They were worse than Peaky Blinders, but they were, you know, a version. Do you know the gangs of New York?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, some of the story was actually based on the IRIP gang. It was based on them. So that's how like historical they were. you know, around the world, not around the world, but especially in America. And when they do films, they do all this research. They do all the research. And the next, they knew about the Irish gang in Liverpool. And some of it was based on the Irish gang.
Again, at the time, fleeing your crime, what you're going to do, you're going to jump on a boat at Liverpool and go to New York, aren't you?
Yeah, Jack Smythe did it. And he ended up at the bloody Alamo.
Yeah.
Jack Smythe. Couldn't believe, couldn't we? Let's see what some of the lads are saying. James Max says, exceptional. If you look between 1875 and 1920, in America, UK, Europe, a lot of buildings were ripped down and they looked the same, architectural, totally influence. Amazing buildings, yes. That's why we're blessed with a hell of a lot. A hell of a lot. And James says, I suppose another story for a different way. Yeah, I'll do that, no problem. And have you seen Peaky Blinders, Frank? No. And I'll tell you for why. When I look at something, it's got to be precise if it's historical. It really has to be precise. And I was looking forward to it. That's Cillian Murphy. I think he's a very good actor. And I said, oh, I'll have a look at this. You know, I was just reading about a little synopsis about a summary, whatever. I said, oh, I'll have a look at that. And the next was a scene like, it just come on, you know, Peaky Blinders, and you see like a gang all in a line, you know, walking towards the camera, so to speak. And I was sitting there and I went, not having it. I'm not having it. And what it was a lad right at the end, I forget it, you know, the end of the line, the left-hand side, as I was looking at it. And he had the dreadlocks down to his hips. And I thought, I'm not having that. That's not historical. They're just making this up here. Just making that up. And I thought, I'm not having it. So I didn't watch it. So no, I didn't see it. No disrespect to, and funny enough, I had a group of people with me in Rodney Street. And you know, I had that, and then couldn't go down it because there was all these film people all there.
That's right, yeah.
And I looked over, and I went, and there was a fella standing there. And I went, I'm going to have a word with him. And who it was, went over, shook his hand. And it was Sam Neill, and I didn't even know he was in it. I said, what are you doing here, Sam? And he said, oh, I'm, you know, filming Peaky Blinders. I didn't know, never had a clue. But apparently it was filmed in some parts of Liverpool, and especially Rodney Street.
And Port Sunlight, where we went for your talk, over there as well.
I've got a talk on, I've got a message today. I've got a talk. That same place, that's in November, early November. And I've got another one. Hang on. No, I don't know. Oh, I'll have to look it up. I don't know whether it's October. I've got one in October and one in November, and I'm getting mixed up here.
Is this the Wallasey place?
Yeah, I'm sure it's October because I've got another one. I did one for the Billings lads.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it on. And now I know it's the date. It was my mother's birthday, the 11th of November. Zoom on there. Zoom on there. So, but the over where you are, the one we went to,
Yeah.
that's next month. That's next month, sometime. I'll let you know the date.
Yeah.
Let you know the date. And we get a cup of tea.
Jeff.
Cup of tea. And James says, you're a truer story of Frank. They dramatised it. Plus clothes. The look was out of date. Thank you. I don't watch anything that's phony. I really don't. I really don't. It's got to be historical fact. Because the likes of the lads with the dreadlocks, no way would they have been allowed into a drink. Being honest with you. And they had no dreadlocks there. No dreadlocks whatsoever. Dreadlocks didn't come out until 1938 with Haile Selassie and the Rastafarians. I do know that. But anyway, getting back to this. Thank you, James. Thank you so much. Getting back to this. It's mad. Now, what has happened? Inside Barn Street, there were 3 people going out. A couple, courting couple, and the mate fella just walking along inside Barn Street going for a drink. And then 3 fellas went out. Where are you going? Gives you money. The lads were like, can't be going out. He said, give us your effing money. Or we beat you up. So anyway, they wouldn't get it then. They just smashed them up. They just went at them and killed one of them. Killed the lad who was out with his girlfriend just on a night out at a weekend. And it was the IRIP gang. And that's what it says on there, the true story behind the infamous Tide Barn Street outrage in Liverpool. And it was, they just killed this poor lad. They killed him. But there was others as well who were cheering him up. They were cheering. And these people were getting beat up, including the girl, by the way. She was getting beat up. If you look at the likes of the ages, like 17 and 15, and a couple of 17-year-olds and 19-year-olds, and then you look at the murderers themselves. There was Samuel Morgan, 29, and Richard Morgan brothers, 26, and Alice Morgan. You know what I mean? They were killed. Well, I don't know whether it was Samuel or Richard. I'm not quite so sure. I think it was Richard who was killed. And these are the boys here. These are the boys. This was. And you have John Holyfly McCrave, 29. Peter Midge Campbell, 19. Michael Mullen, 17. Thomas Mullen, 15. And Mary McCrave, 17. And it was shocking. It's enraged or outraged the whole of Liverpool what has happened. Shocking. And it's sad to think that the way Liverpool was at the time, you know, with these violent people going around terrorising. They were terrorised. Was probably, you know, your grandparents were being terrorised by them, Anthony, and Laney's grandparents, and they did get terrorised. Funny enough, the IRIP gang and the Peanut gang, they wanted to see who's, you know, the hardest. So they added off, and you know, the two gangs together. And you know, Park Road has a terrible reputation of being, you know, very tall. You can't walk up there. Scotland Road, the same. Oh, you can't walk up there. And they added off, as I said. And the High Rip gang apparently beat the Peanut gang. But there wasn't like any celebrations or anything. And the High Rip gang didn't like melt into a nothingness. They still were, you know, a terrorist, more or less, gang terrorising everywhere around the Park Road area. And this lot still terrorised the people around the Scotland Road area. And it's just so sad that these people, you know, just going for a night out and ended up murdered by these fellas. They never succumbed to them. And unfortunately, if they would have just said, well, they are, is the money, they would have been, you know, they would have, albeit they wouldn't have had a drink, but at least they would have been alive. And that's the way it was. And there you have the execution. They're hanging there. They're hanging. The execution Monday, the 4th of January, 1875. That's how long they've been going. Right through to the 20th century. Terrorising.
Yeah.
Terrorising. And James says, Gangs of New York, 5 Points was based on a true story. Based is the word. Yes. Yes, James. Yeah. Richo, evening Frank and Anthony and chat. Good news at last with Friedkin Group takeover. Goes through quickly. Yes, that's for you, isn't it, Everton? Yeah. It's for you, Everton. At least you got a good point there, didn't you?
Well,
the point is that you're not being
you need all news.
The point you're making. And James says, what year was this, Frank? It says there 1875, when they were hanged. There was I always remember my grandmother telling me a story, and she said there was a judge called Justice Day, and he went somewhere in Scotland Road, forget where she said. It's one of the streets of Scotland Road, where the gas lamps were, you know, with the arms out, what you find in Rodney Street today. And he went and he took his gold watch out with his gold chain, and he hung it over the arm of the gas lamp.
Mm.
He says, I'm coming back for that tomorrow. If it's gone, I'm going to round up every gang member of the High Rip gang, and you'll all have penal servitude. You will go to jail for a very, very long time. And no one nicked it. He went back the next day, 24 hours later, and it was still hanging there.
Wow.
Mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, and look at this. Gotta go here. That's Kirkdale. That's the Borough Jail, which was in Tide Bar. And what it was, when I forget what Nicholas it was. I think you've got to bear with me on this. But one of the Tsars came over. I don't know whether it was Tsar Nicholas the First or the second. I think it was the second. The second it was. And he comes over, visits Liverpool, you know. And he was going around, showing them around. And anyway, he was going past the jail. And he went, "What's that?" And he says, "Oh, it's a prison." He said, "That's a prison." And look at the way it was, look. It's the way it is. County Jail, Liverpool, Kirk Jail, Liverpool. And he said, "Is that lovely?" He said, "Can I go in?" Well, they're not going to refuse him. So anyway, he went in. And he looked at it. And that's the map of it there. You know, where you see like the X and the whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how it was set. And it was one of the first in the world for inmates. So anyway, you know, he's looking around and went, "Wow, this is fantastic." So anyway, he went back to Russia when his, you know, trip was over. Went back to Russia and he sent architects out to look at the jail. Russian architects. He said, "Have a look at that jail." So they all came and they all, "Oh, look at that, it's great, this, isn't it?" Just like Tsar said. So they designed one themselves. And this is a very famous jail. And it's based on Kirkdale Jail.
Wow.
And you know what it's called? Lubyanka. It's based on Kirkdale Jail. You can't make these things up.
No.
Lubyanka.
Man.
Look. And there you go. And that was the IRIP.
Hanging going on.
Not the IRIP, the lad. You know the lad's Gleason being hanged. Mad. Lovely. And that's it. James, incredible. Shakespeare once said, "Hell was empty. All the demons are here."
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love that quote because they are, and that applies today, unfortunately. That applies today. When he says, you know, in Hamlet, when he says, "There is something rotten in the state of Denmark," what Shakespeare was actually writing was something rotten in the state of England, because he didn't like what was going on in England at the time. When he wrote, when he wrote the likes of Macbeth, for example, when he wrote about Othello, for example, Hamlet, The Merchant of Venice, you know, when he wrote about these were outside the country, so he could write really, you know, horrible stuff. But what he was actually saying was, this is happening in England, and he couldn't say it.
Yeah.
He couldn't actually say it because he'd be in trouble. Just like Christopher Marlowe in 1594, when he was assassinated. Great writer, Christopher Marlowe. And you couldn't say anything here unless, you know, you could be beheaded. And it's just like it now. You can't say it with me, and you could end up in jail if he said anything. It's shocking, but freedom of speech. You can't say, you know, if you disagree with what's going on, there's Starmer and there's Lammy, those two idiots wants to send rockets. They want to give the most corrupt leader in the world, and he's not even a leader. I don't know why they're saying he's a leader. He stopped all elections. They should have had an election months ago, and he stopped them because the Ukrainian people wanted him out. They hate him. They're sending their lads to, slaughter. And they want to give them rockets to send into Russia. That would start a nuclear war. We'd be at war with them because there are rockets. So you want to fucking mess with us? Okay. And Putin warned them, you'll face the consequences. And it takes 300, less than 300 seconds for a nuclear device, a bomb, a missile, that can't be shot down. Less than 300 seconds to hit London. So it's going on today. That quote. Shakespeare once said, hell was empty, all the demons are here. And James says, wow, that looks like H blocks in Northern Ireland built in the 1960s during the Troubles. Yes. Yes. Yes, you're right. Because it does. Look at it. But every jail copied that, including Sing Sing. And that was one of the worst. That's what you call the treadmill. Look at the treadmill. And you went on that for 18 hours a day, non-stop. You were just feeding your water, a bit crust of bread. You had to be on it for 18 hours. Just mad. That's what our prisons were like. Not like today, eh? Not like today where you can have a computer tell you the thing in the cell. Not that I know where actually, I don't know, I suppose.
Thank God, touch wood.
Yeah. So what do you think of tonight?
Absolutely fascinating. Love it. I know what I'm doing tomorrow. I've got to do some swatting up. Just loved it. Loved it. And the clip Jason put up in the middle.
Yeah.
So fitted the whole.
It is, isn't it? Just fitted it.
Yeah.
But next week we'll have a look at some more highlights. I just want to show you one thing before we go. One thing before we go, please. Let's see.
That is brilliant. That's the illustration.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Let's see. Right. Let's see if we can get closer. Yeah, get closer. Right. You see that statue there?
Yeah.
Right. CGAs used to be facing that. So that's that statue, in London Road, top of London Road there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's of, when you look at it, it's of George III. And George III was a great advocate of, he loved about the Romans,
Yeah.
and the Caesars. And when they decided, they're going to do a statue of you up in Liverpool, he said, yeah, they love you. And he went, okay. And he said, can I be like a Roman? That's what he said. Can I be like a Roman? And he went, all right. So when you look at the statue, Anthony, he's sitting there like a Caesar on his horse.
Wow.
Now, where's a myth surrounding it? And the myth is, now you know that I lectured about the Romans, right?
Yeah.
That what it was. People were saying, he committed suicide. This is Westmacott, you know, the architect, the sculptor,
Yeah.
Westmacott. And he didn't commit suicide. Like, it's another folklore, it's another myth. It's another myth surrounding Liverpool. And what has happened was, people are, why did he commit suicide? Oh, because he found out that he didn't put stirrups on the horse. Well, the point is, the Romans never had stirrups. They were great horsemen.
Yeah.
They didn't have stirrups. And Westmacott knew that. And Westmacott lived to the ripe old age of 85. So you see how myths are born, the likes of St. George's Hall,
Absolutely.
that wonderful place being built back to front. And it wasn't.
That would be a good half a program one time.
Certainly,
Debunking the myths.
certainly would. Yeah. It was. What does James say? Hang on. Where am I? Right. James says, a war song to enlighten Englishmen by Blake. Part of it, the part I like. The arrows of Almighty God are drawing down. Angels of death stand in luring heavens. Thousands of souls must seek the realms of light and walk together on the clouds of heaven. Prepare, prepare. Brilliant, that. I love Blake.
Yeah.
And then his poem, London. I'll have to finish it with. And in his poem of London, in part of it, as it goes down, you know, like, I wander through each chartered street where chartered Thames or so. Going on from there, he says, as the hapless soldier sighs, as blood runs down palace walls. Meaning, you know, everybody is hapless, including soldiers, as the blood runs down, their blood. The blood runs down palace walls because they start the wars. They were the instigators of every war at the time. At the time, they were the establishment, and the establishment always start wars. Well done, James. I love Blake, mate. I love him. And good show again, Frank says, Chris Ticks. And Anthony, thanks. Such a special place, Liverpool. Every time I come back from abroad, it changed, and not for the better. Good night. Not for the better. Every time he comes back, it's changed, not for the better. Well, anyway, Anthony, it's next week. Next week.
Love to.
See you next week.
Continue my education, Frank.
Well, we'll have a look at the map again, and there's some loads of interesting stuff that I can go over. I'll show you a few things. And one thing is I'll show next week is that a certain building that is there, but it isn't there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, they try to modify it, and it's an absolute disgrace what they did. A couple of things, actually. So I'll show that in detail, and it'll be great. Okay.
Look forward to it, Frank.
Thanks a lot, Anthony. Thank you so much. Thanks for keeping me company as usual every Monday, and we just go through things, don't we? And I've just got to thank the sponsors of the Frank Carlyle Show, which is Gap Painting Services. And Gap Painting Services, please believe me, these are fantastic. If you're an NHS worker, get them in to do it, you get a special discount. If you're an elder and you can't climb this whatever to get up and paint ceilings or whatever, you get a special discount. Get them in. Get them in, please get them in. And they're excellent. And even if you're not in the category of NHS or an elderly, you get they're very reasonable. They are very, very reasonable. And that's Gap Painting Services, the sponsors of the Frank Carlyle Show. And also, I've got to thank Jason, who sets everything up for Frank and Anthony. Without him, I don't know what I'd be doing, to be honest. I've got a clue. And obviously, all the lads out there, every one of you, tunes in. I've seen there's only one girl who tunes in, but she's texted me because it wasn't on Facebook or something. And that was Lynn Ellis. Thank you, Lynn. And I'll see all you football fans tomorrow night on the pod about Liverpool. And it'll be like a pre-match thing as well. I'll be doing a post-match on Wednesday after the game against West Ham. But join me tomorrow night. And I've just got to thank you out there, because without you out there, it'd be no show.
Yeah.
It would be a waste of time. And James, I'll finish off with James. Good night. Great show. God bless. Thank you, James. God bless you, mate. Thank you. I will see you next weekend.
Look forward to it, Frank.
All right, mate. And love to Amy.
I will do that.
Thank you.